As a matter of respect, I would ask you to observe 1 minute's silence. Thank you. Since the beginning of the War on Terror, on October 7th, 2001, the British public have been swamped daily with news headlines that announce the death or deaths of service personnel currently overseas, fighting what has become a politically sensitive war on terror. The British Prime Minister makes headlines and announces, surprisingly, but more support for our British troops in Afghanistan. I may be mistaken, but that would be a rarity. But I think these promises have been made year after year after year. Not only did Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister, who took us alongside George Bush into the war on terror, made the same promises. Gordon Brown was the Chancellor of the Exchequer then, and knew how much money was actually held in the purse strings, so his promises were made half-emptily, really. I get the feeling today's promises made by the Prime Minister that more support for the British personnel is kind of half-empty, and that isn't a negative look at it, because if he was a man of honour, he would have fulfilled the promises that were made in 2002, 2003, 2004 or 2007. Or he would have responded when senior ranking officers called for more support and condemned the equipment. The shortfall of equipment in Afghanistan was an issue from day one. Supplies were also an issue from day two. What should have been an issue from day three was the fact that innocent soldiers were putting their life on the line for a war that American people even believed was started as a result of its own US government bringing down the Twin Towers. Did the US government, did the President of the United States order the blowing up and the killing of thousands of his own people to meet his own needs or his own greed for a war in Afghanistan? Personally, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I believe it was an act of terrorism. But what I do believe 8 years on is that if the British government sincerely wanted to fulfill its promises of giving and supplying the British Armed Forces with the proper equipment and manpower to do the job, it would have done so by now. It certainly would have done so by now. The British Prime Minister, Mr. Gordon Brown, the leader of the British government, should do one of two things: resign, or at least support the British Armed Forces and lead by example and just give the Ministry of Defence a blank cheque to get on with the job at hand and not make a mockery out of lost lives.